Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the special joint City Council and Redevelopment Agency meeting. Let's confirm that the Mayor Carolyn Goodman is on the phone. She'll be attending the meeting on the phone.
Mayor, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thanks for being with us, Mayor. Thank you very much for mentioning Moore, Oklahoma. They're having a very difficult day today, and our thoughts and prayers are with them. And if anyone would like to make a financial contribution to help them out, my understanding is the American Red Cross is down there. So please think about them today and the weeks to come. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, the May 21st, 2013 Special Joint City Council and Redevelopment Agency meeting is called to order. This meeting has been properly noticed and posted in compliance with the open meeting law. These proceedings are being video recorded as well as presented live on KCLV Cable Channel 2 and are closed caption for our hearing impaired viewers. Please note some customers of Cox Communication who do not have a cable box can view this meeting on digital channel 89.5. This special meeting, as well as all other KCLV programming, can be viewed on the internet at www.lasvegasnevada.gov. The proceedings will be rebroadcast on Thursday at 8 a.m., Friday at 8 p.m., Saturday at 6 a.m., and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. For public comment related to the items on the agenda, citizen participation, and public hearing items, we have available a speaker card which you can complete and submit to the city clerk. Cards are available online in the clerk's office or at the rear of the chambers. If you do not submit a card, it does not prevent you from speaking under public comment, citizen participation, or specific public hearing items. If there's anyone present today that has a need for hearing impaired equipment, please see the city clerk's staff. If you parked in the parking garage across the street and did not receive a validation ticket as you enter the chambers, please exit to your right and then see the security personnel at the entrance. Before we proceed with the agenda, would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will now go to public comment. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. The amount of time any single speaker is allowed may be limited. All comments made will be cross-referenced to those specific items. If anyone submitted a speaker card or who wishes to speak under this portion of the agenda, please come to the podium. State your name for the record. We'll set the time for 1 minute. Anyone from the public wishing to comment under public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Okay, we'll go on. Well, if anybody wants public comment, come up to the podium.
Mayor, I think we have a gentleman who wants to take a minute to speak about a subject that could theoretically be construed as on the budget, but it is, in fact, maybe off point, but I think he's come here early, and if he only wants 1 minute.
Come on up. You have 1 minute, please. Please state your name for the record. Yep.
My name is Brett Brinsfield. I'm a recent transplant from a place called Cincinnati, Ohio. I've brought two of my internet companies out here to Las Vegas, one for couples who are celebrating their wedding anniversaries, BetterHalfBall.com wedding anniversary nights. I brought it to the marriage capital of the world, and what I do is for couples who are celebrating their wedding anniversary nights, I assemble 100 couples who all got married the same week, get them in one of your fantastic ballrooms here, and basically have a prom night for those couples who are all celebrating their wedding anniversaries. So I was doing that back in Cincinnati, and hopefully we'll bring it here and make it a tremendous new business. And I've also created a new brand of baseball game that is going to be fantastic. I've actually taken the outfield wall out from this baseball field, and we're replacing it with a 4-foot deep by 10-foot long tank, which the gentleman from the reality show Tanked and I are working on. And I just wanted to introduce myself and my two .coms, and hopefully these two new services will be great for everybody here that's married or likes watching and playing baseball.
Okay, well, welcome to Las Vegas, and if you need any help from the city, you can reach out to the Economic Development Office.
Mr. Coughlin and I have a nice new friendship.
Okay, Councilman Beers?
I was going to throw another idea at you, which is to have that couples thing also email the husbands a reminder email that the
Exactly.
anniversary.
My slogan is never forget your anniversary
It's
again.
coming up,
It'll
yeah.
be I understand one of the married women here who's going to have a wedding anniversary June 6th. Hopefully will be my first customer, and since she's not here, she's on the phone, maybe we can talk to her later about that.
Thank you. One more time on public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment. We'll go on to item number 5. This is a public hearing for possible action regarding the fiscal year 2014 City of Las Vegas tentative budget and the fiscal year 2014 City of Las Vegas final budget, including the 5-year capital improvement plan. This is a public hearing. I will declare it open, and it looks like our city manager, Fretwell, is going to tee this up. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, we may want to go ahead and open all of the budget items so that we can talk about them all in sequence.
Sure, I can do that. Any problems with that, Brad?
Nope, just
Okay.
when it comes time to make a motion, you'll have to make separate motions, but other than that, you can call them all together.
Okay, we'll hear them all together and make separate motions. Very good. Okay, item number 6 is also a public hearing for possible action regarding the fiscal year 2014 City of Las Vegas Redevelopment Agency tentative budget and the fiscal year 2014 City of Las Vegas final budget. And item number 7 is a R33-2013, discussion for possible action to adopt by resolution the budget policies upon which the city budgets are based. I think that's, and then item number 8 is RA 2013, discussion for possible action to adopt by resolution the budget policies upon which the redevelopment agency budgets are based. And I believe that's it. So we'll go ahead and do the presentation on all those items, and then at the end, we'll open it up for any more public comment, and then we'll go ahead with motions. Okay, very good.
I just need to start off by saying I think Steve Ross lost in the fight with me over the budget this weekend. Wow. Good morning. Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor Goodman, and members of the council, I'm Betsy Fretwell. I'm the city manager, and I'm really pleased to be here in front of you today, giving some opening comments to our upcoming budget. I feel like since I became city manager, I've been talking to you about recessions and slow recoveries, and we're still in a slow recovery. The budget that's being presented to you today represents about a 1% growth in revenues. We're continuing to sustain our service levels. With that modest recovery in our revenues, we're recommending a $1.1 billion total budget and about a $480 million general fund budget this year. This is still a deficit budget. Candy Falder and Vanetta Appleyard will go into the details of that budget, but generally we're still at about a 1% to 2% budget deficit, which is very similar to the kind of budget that we presented to you last year. It was a slight deficit budget of about $10 million. One of the things that I think is important to note is that through the hard work and effort of the mayor and council, our department heads, our employees, we've been able to perform well against the budget that you authorized last year. So we had a little bit better revenue performance than we were projecting, and we had a little better than expense performance than projected, which made us look like we're going to end the year in the black. Obviously, we still need to finish our financial statements and our financial reports and close out the books, but right now it looks really positive that we will finish the year ever so slightly in the black, and Candy will go through that. But our journey isn't over. Those revenue numbers that we're talking about right now aren't anything close to the peaks that we saw in 2007 and 2008. This is definitely a long, slow climb out. We recognize that, and we recognize that it's really important for us to build a budget that addresses your council priorities, the things that you worked with us to design and develop that you said are most important to our community. So making sure that we have a thriving and sustainable business community, making sure that we have a safe and healthy community, that we have comprehensive fiscal stewardship, that we have community pride, that we have fantastic customer service, and that we have organizational excellence. The budget before you today helps bolster all of those priorities. And so we are hopeful that with continued investment like this along the lines of the priorities that you've established for us, that we'll continue to see improvement in our community's satisfaction. You heard a presentation earlier in the spring by the assistant to the city manager, Maggie Plaster, where she shared with you that we had a 10% increase in citizen engagement year over year. That is substantial in the times we're in. It means that a lot of the things that we're doing are on the right track, and your citizens are saying that to us. They're saying, hey, look, we're committed to this city. We're engaged, we're following you, we're part of this, and it shows up in those survey scores, and I think we should all be very proud of that. This is our third year in a row of cost containment budgeting, where we started with a deficit, we ended with a slight surplus, and what that does is it helps keep capital programs going for the city. It helps us do moderate restorations of programs, making sure that we're creating a sustainable service level for the citizens out in the community. We've also used unique partnerships to make a lot of this happen. So we have partnerships with the school district, for instance. We have partnerships with CSN, with UNLV, with the Public Education Foundation, and a variety of other organizations, Teach for America Foundation, to help our workforce and to help our kids improve their educational attainment so that we have a robust workforce that helps us create a strong business community here. So there's jobs, good paying jobs for people to take, and that they're trained for them. We've sustained our capital programs. During tough times, a lot of things that get cut first are capital. We didn't really do that. We did cut some of our capital to stem some of our losses early on, but we've heard loud and clear from each of you that it's important for us to continue to improve our infrastructure, that we can't just shut pools down, that we have to rebuild them, that we need to make sure that our streets are in good condition, and that we need to pay attention to what the neighborhoods need. So we've been investing in walkable communities. My gosh, by the time this fiscal year ends, we're going to outstrip Portland in the number of bike lane miles. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought it? And in a time of very difficult financial troubles for our community. And our citizens are using them. And we've got communities that are connected to commercial centers so they can walk instead of getting their cars. So kids can walk to parks or walk to schools instead of having to take a bus or having to have their parent drive them on a major street. We're making big improvements in our community one step at a time, and it's because of your direction and this kind of investment that we're able to do that. Mayor and members of the council, we have a great city here, and we're only making it better every day. We do that with your leadership. We also do that with a great team of employees that are committed public servants. I'm proud to work with them. I think you'll be proud of this budget. We'll continue to recover. We'll continue to be financially conservative in the way we implement your budget, making sure that we're keeping up with your desires and your vision and making impacts like the ones I just shared with you. I hope to be standing here next year sharing with you similar accomplishments. Hopefully a little brighter budget picture with maybe a little less deficit, or maybe one that's wiped out, which you all know is my goal. But we can't do this without a great team of people. We have fantastic department heads that are creative, innovative, and team players, and we're lucky for that. We have a fantastic finance department and departmental budget staff that work very hard to put this budget together to meet your priorities, to stay in tune with what the local economy will support, and make sure that we're successful. So I'm just happy to be here today to present this budget to you. This budget doesn't include concessions, service cuts, or any of those other things that we've had to talk about in the past. I think that's a milestone. It makes it a lot easier to do our jobs. And I like to thank you for your vision and your consistency in implementing your strategic plan, because that helps us build smart budgets for you to consider, like the one that we have before you today. What I'd like to do is, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I'd like to turn it over to Candy and Vanetta to give you a highlight of what's changed between tentative budget and final budget, and be prepared to answer any questions that you may have as a result of the activities in the last 6 weeks or so. Thank you very much.
Okay, just to see if any council people have any comments, and then we'll turn it over to Candy of another. Councilman Ross?
Thank you, Betsy. Great opening to the budget presentation. But I want to say this, because of these economic times that we've suffered through, and the people of this city have suffered through, and the employees of this city have suffered through, your team has done a phenomenal job. And I want to express my appreciation. You talk about our vision. I think our vision is we appreciate what all of the employees in the city of Las Vegas have had to endure because of these economic times. And your team's done a phenomenal job keeping us pointed in the right direction. So I want to extend my appreciation to every city employee, from the firefighter to the guy cutting grass out at Tule Springs. It's a team effort, and that's what makes this such a great city. So I want you to know that.
Thank you.
Councilman Coffin?
Thank you, Mayor. Betsy, this budget is comprehensive. In fact, there's more online for anybody and everybody to come in and take a look. We don't hide anything. And I think that it shows a lot of effort on your part. And I've been here nearly 2 years, and I've seen a marked improvement in the budget, and it's become more open. Really, the current word is transparent, but it still means the same thing. And it's good not to hide anything from the public. And they've got computers, and they can dig and dig and dig all they want, and then they can ask us questions. And so it's presented well. I think that it's comprehensive, and as you say, it's nice to not have to incur any additional cuts. People who have had cuts aren't getting much better, but at least we'll be able to start thinking about rebuilding, and that's the main thing. And this budget gives us a good, from my examination of it anyway, it certainly gives us a good start to rebuild. Hopefully, while I'm in office here, we'll begin to feel like we'll have some money to invest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for your presentation.
Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor, distinguished council members. Candace Falder, Finance Director. Betsy's given you the introduction for your fiscal year 2014 budget. We want to give you a little bit some of the specifics between tentative and final that we're requesting your authorization to move forward with filing with the Nevada Department of Taxation. A little bit of the trending. We've brought you this slide several times before. Fiscal year 07, some of the peaks with our expenditures and our revenues. As you can see, we have managed through these years trying to balance what our resources are with revenues, with what we can spend to provide services to our citizens. As you look to the far right, the bar, the expenditures and the revenues are pretty closely aligned for fiscal year 14. As Betsy stated, we'll have a slight deficit of about $9 million of our expenditures are exceeding our revenues. Our revenues in fiscal year 14 will represent just under 1% increase from what we're projecting in fiscal year 13, primarily driven by a 1% increase in consolidated tax that we are including in the final budget above what we brought you in the tentative budget. Our expenditures will increase about 3% in fiscal year 14 over what we're projecting to spend in fiscal year 13. When we brought you the fiscal year 14 tentative budget, we had 24 new positions in the general fund. For final, we're bringing you an additional 1.5 new employees, adding to that list. We've added an executive director for community development and a victim witness advocate that's a half-time employee. City's attorney's office has had this employee throughout the years that was grant funded. The grant will no longer support it, but it's critical to our city attorney's operations.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. This is Vanetta Alpiard, Financial Services Manager. The purpose of this slide is to give you an illustration of the revenue that Candy was talking about on the previous slide. We wanted to let you know that the total is $472 million, and of that, you can see that the governmental revenues, where consolidated tax is represented, represents about 52% of our revenue. Our next highest revenue is our property tax at 18.6%. That's followed by the franchise fees, which is 11.3%. Again, it's a 1% increase over FY13 estimate and relatively flat compared to what we presented in tentative. The second slide is a same type of slide to show you the $482 million that we are projecting in the general fund budget. This gives you where we spend our money as far as our function. Public safety, as you can see, is the largest slice of the pie. It's about 65% of the total expenditures. The next slice is the general government, which is 12%. And the third slice is cultural and rec at 10%. Again, $482 million, it's relatively consistent with what we showed you in the tentative budget, and it represents about a 3.5 increase over FY13 estimate.
I think Councilman Ross has a question.
Vanetta, would you go back to the previous slide? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Okay.
Talk to us for my benefit as well as the public's benefit, the governmental revenues of 242.9. What is that?
Again, the majority of that is C-tax, and then there's a little bit of the other revenues are some taxes related to room tax and gaming taxes. But again, of that number, I would say that probably 90% of that is consolidated tax.
Consolidated revenue tax?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
So we were there. I guess we're there.
Councilman Coughlin.
Thank you. Before you go from there, Vanetta, before you go back to the pie chart, because Public Works at 12.7 million is an awful small slice of the pie to maintain a $6 or $7 or $8 billion budget. I mean, infrastructure, total assets that we have now. We've learned as we've begun to really look at them. And I know we've got enterprise funds that have money that will show elsewhere that help pay for an awful lot of that. But it's still, it's a good indication that that little red slice there is trying to carry way too much. You know, it's just like it has to carry. We're falling behind in that particular area, and I know people need to be reminded of that. They know that our public safety payroll by far is the biggest item, but when we're talking about public works that keeps the city going, underground and above ground, we have to be very careful not to let it get any smaller, and hopefully we can start expanding that as revenues begin to come back, because that's a key thing. Our infrastructure is falling behind.
Councilman Vanetta will share with you in a couple slides later some of the capital money that we spend on road and flood,
Okay.
and she'll have some comments on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the fiscal year 14 general fund, we've brought you what we refer to as the model several times. This slide shows you what we budgeted in fiscal year 13 and what we're estimating to complete the year in another month, along with the column to the right that's what we're recommending for fiscal 14 budget. As you could see, drawing your eyes to the bottom, the excess or shortfall, in fiscal year 13 we budgeted to have a $10 million deficit. As Betsy stated, we've tightened our belts. The departments have really paid attention to meeting your priorities, but spending only what's necessary to draw from the budget. So we are projecting that we will end fiscal year 13 with an excess of $3 million that'll carry forward in the fund balance. With that, we've built your fiscal year 14, in Betsy's words, very modest, using the resources that we know we're going to have. We have revenues of $472 million. We're budgeting expenditures of $481 million. We still say we're going to have a shortfall of just under $10 million, bringing down our fund balance to $93 million. That represents just under a 20% ending fund balance. Included in that fiscal year 14, we're increasing our expenditure level over 13 by $16 million. We have debt service, you will see, has increased over 13 with the sequester. We will not get some of the BABs and the ARA credits that we were going to get. We have new City Hall debt of $7 million, adding to that increase in debt service. We really want to focus on keeping our fund balance around 20%. This is necessary for that's one of the main elements that the bond raters look at as they're evaluating us. We did see that we were able to sustain our bond rating the last couple times we were reviewed. We have a little bit of a negative watch, but we've been able to sustain it, primarily based on the financial resources that we're able to maintain within our fund balance.
This slide is showing you our FY14 capital improvement appropriation. This is across all capital funds, and the way they're organized is obviously by the way that we're required to report according to the generally accepted accounting rules. The funding sources for these, for across all funds, are pretty much dedicated. As you know, we get dedicated funding sources that have to be used specifically for certain improvements, and capital improvements is one of those areas. The $249 million, for instance, an example of that is road and flood. That number of $89.1 million, that's our ongoing relationship with Clark County Regional Flood Control and the Regional Transportation Commission. That's where the majority of that funding is coming from. August 1st, we have to file our 5-year capital improvement plan, the big budget book, which each of the individual projects, and we will be coming back to you before that time to show you all of those projects. This just gives you an idea of across all funds, the trending over the years. The total budget, again, the $1.1 billion, that includes general funds, special revenue funds, internal service funds, those capital funds we were just looking at, and debt service as well. It shows our city population and our general fund trend.
This slide is on budget policies. The reason we have this here is we've made 2 slight changes from last year's budget policies that you adopted. You have budget policies on your agenda as items 7 and 8. These modifications impact item 7, which is the city budget policies. The changes that we've made is the general fund ending fund balance should equal at least 12% of operating revenues. And what we've added here is the last statement with an aspirational goal of 20%. As I discussed in previous slides, we've been trying to maintain that 20%. It is really just an aspirational goal. The 12% is still the stated policy. But looking forward with what we want to maintain with the city, that's what we will aspire to. The second bullet, we had on the budget policies before a ceiling of what we would maintain in internal service fund. However, in additional reviews and what we need for the employee benefits internal service fund, we ensure that this fund is maintained at no less than 20% of prior year's expenditure. This was a resolution that was passed by the City Council about 6 years ago. We need to bring our budget policies in line with that resolution, so that modification is being made this year to make it a floor that we need to maintain in deference to a ceiling that we had in the policies before.
The redevelopment agency for FY14, this is the budget that we were filing. As you can see, we have tax increment revenue of 13 with a set aside of 2.4 and the other revenue of 7.4. That other revenue is predominantly tax increment revenue that is being returned to the RDA for related city facility improvements that were done, and we're repaying a note. And there's also some infrastructure contributions to Symphony Park that are being returned to the RDA due to the fact that that infrastructure is no longer needed or it's been finished as such. The operating expenditures, $4 million, relates to operations, which includes the payroll and the ongoing operating activities that need to be done at the RDA level. The debt service is self-explanatory at 12.9, and the program expenses are a continuation of the VIP program and the business incubator, as well as some of the other RDA ongoing projects that need to be done, giving a shortfall of $1.4 million with an ending fund balance of 21.9.
Councilman Beers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mayor Pro Tem. Just to jump in, there's some press coverage this weekend. That $12.9 million debt service is the figure that will go down if the redevelopment refinancing of the debt bill is passed in Carson City. I hope it's evident to everyone what an improvement that would be in the operations and maintenance of this entity. I don't know that there's anything else operationally we can really do to fix that would be as powerful. So I just wanted to toss that into the discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Councilman Barlow.
I'm just trying to follow what Councilman Beers mentioned as far as the legislation in Carson City and how that affects the RDA. If you can just wash that out for me a little bit more, please.
Well, in the expenditure section, that debt service line is almost $13 million. And if we are able to refinance our debt, that represents approximately $110 million of debt, the mortgage due. And if we can take that debt, which has got a 15-year life to it now, and turn it into a 30-year life, then the cash flow required to maintain the debt will drop considerably. And that is what will reduce our cash flow on an ongoing basis closer to our revenue. Hopefully, with all the excitement happening downtown, with the downtown project coming in and making the significant investment they've made, we're going to see some turnaround in assessed value downtown. That will generate greater property tax very quickly because the RDA is based on that last property tax dollar assessed, which is why it's fallen so hard, so fast. It should pick up when the economy picks up too, is the hope. But in the meantime, if we can refinance our debt over a longer period of time, then that $12.9 million figure is going to come down quite a bit. How much it comes down depends on what kind of an interest rate we can attract from the world on that transaction, and how long we can make the mortgage.
Yes.
Councilwoman Tarkanian?
Does this mean that you're feeling more positive than you sounded in the newspaper?
I did not write that
Because
article.
I must say, I said, oh my goodness.
I did not write that article.
Well, I
Councilwoman.
understand that, and I understand it could have been slightly askew. But what I'm saying is you're feeling then that we're not in as much danger, particularly if the legislature passes?
That will help.
That'll
We're
help.
in danger, there's no doubt. We've seen this in just 2 fiscal years. We've seen this revenue stream fall in half. That's a drop unprecedented in Southern Nevada local government, if I'm not mistaken. Period, end of story, through all time. Whether it can recover as quickly remains to be seen, but it's not like we can not pay the debt, right? We have
Right.
an obligation to pay the debt, so probably the best thing we can do is refinance that debt over a longer period of time, making the payment smaller.
And I understand that. It sounded like doomsday practically in the
Yeah.
article I read, and
It's-
it sounded as if we didn't have resources for the RDA, and I had just, I
Oh, no,
think,
we've got the general fund, we've got the whole city backing us up, but there's no doubt extending out the duration of those payments is going to reduce the cash flow required to maintain it.
yeah. And I understand that business practice. Thank you.
Okay, continue on.
Let's follow on to that, for the redevelopment agency, just a brief look at the, excuse me, ending fund balance that we're projecting. It's broken into 3 categories. The first is non-spendable, $5.8 million. Non-spendable represents land that's held for resale. The reserved amount of $8.5 million is reserved for debt payments, and the unreserved of $7.5 million represents approximately 41% of the revenue that we'll be budgeting for fiscal year 14. With that, that concludes the specifics of our presentation. I do want to reiterate what Councilman Coffin provided to our viewers, is that the final budget will be available online on our website by June 1st of this year. That is the due date when we have to file with the Nevada Department of Taxation. We do post the full budget out there in detail with all the funds. And if there are any questions, glad to answer them.
Any questions from the city council? You know, I think one of the important things is, and Betsy, you mentioned this at the beginning, this budget wasn't just thrown together. It was, there was a lot of people involved in putting it together. It was based on workshops, but it all began with the strategic plan and the priorities that the city council set. And I think it's important that we just mention what those are, because that's what this budget is based on, and it's on page 3 of the tentative budget. So just so everybody understands, it just reminds everyone, the priorities that this budget is based on is, number one, a thriving and sustainable business community. Number two, it's based on a safe and healthy city. Number three, it's based on a comprehensive fiscal stewardship. Number four, it's based on community pride. Number five, it's based on excellent customer service. And item number six, it's based on organizational excellence. So I think this budget speaks to all those items. And I'll tell you, when I came on in 2009, and there were some other council members, it was, I just remember listening to Mark Vincent, and it was doom and gloom, and who knows what's going to happen, and $250 million budget deficits, and you know, it was some tough discussions back then, and we're not out of the woods yet, but we're in a pretty good place. You know, we're kind of moving in the right direction. Things aren't, like Councilman Beer said, there's still a little danger out there, but you know, we're providing customer service. You know, I get calls in my office about Ward 4, and our employees take care of it. I mean, the same day, I had a sign and one of my cactus destroyed over the weekend at Cheyenne and Fort Apache. I sent an email in, and it was fixed yesterday on Monday. So, you know, I think the people, the residents of our city, I think they understand that we are doing the best we can to make sure we provide services, and we're taking care of their money. And I think the city council has done a good job the last 4 years. I think Betsy and your staff and our employees, and it seems like we're moving in the right direction. So I appreciate everything you and I know you all folks work a lot to make sure that this budget is put together. And so, okay, I guess we'll move on to item number 6. Oh, okay, we'll take public hearing on item number 5. Anyone from the public wishing to be heard on item number 5? Okay, and we will go on to item number 6, which is the tentative budget for the redevelopment agency. Let's go ahead and have the presentation first on the redevelopment budget, and then we'll have a public hearing on that.
Councilman, we opened all items at the beginning of this meeting. We have provided input on each one of these 4 items, 5 through 8. We are seeking your recommendation to approve 5 and 6 to move forward and adopt resolutions 7 and 8 at this time.
Okay, so you don't have a presentation on the redevelopment budget?
No, we provided that within, those were the last 2 slides, if you'd like us to bring them up again, that we had discussion on the redevelopment agency with Councilman Beers and Councilwoman Tarkanian and Councilman Barlow coming in on what we were going to do in the future with the redevelopment agency.
Mayor Pro Tem, if there's no public comment on items 5 or 6, I would move to follow staff's recommendation on agenda item number 5 for approval.
Okay, we have a motion on item number 5. Go ahead and cast your vote. Mayor, if you could do a voice vote. Mayor Goodman, are you there?
Yes, aye.
Hi, we have a motion to approve agenda item number 5. If you could cast your vote, please.
Yes, I vote favor.
Very good, thank you. And please post. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 6.
Mayor Pro Tem, I would, if there's no public comment on agenda item number 6, I would motion to follow staff's recommendation for approval.
Okay, we have a motion on item number 6. Mayor, just make sure you heard that. Thank you. And post. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Councilman Ross.
And,
We will now go on to item number 7.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, I would move to also follow staff's recommendation for the adoption of R33, 2013.
Okay, we have a motion on item number 7. Mayor?
Yes, I vote in favor.
Thank you. Well, please vote and post. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 8.
Mayor Pro Tem, I would also move to follow staff's recommendation for the adoption of RA 20, 2013.
Thank you, Councilman Ross. Mayor, we have a motion on item number 8.
I also vote in favor.
Thank you. And post. Item carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We now will go on to item number 9, citizen participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the City Council and Redevelopment Agency. No subject may be acted upon by the City Council and Redevelopment Agency unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come to the podium, give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Is there anyone in the public that would like to participate in citizen participation? Seeing none, we will close citizen participation. Any other comments? Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for participating, Mayor, and everybody have a good day.